I'm going to take you through some of the trends that are happening within soft drinks and then talk to you about the principles we applied to the project we ran with Asian Trader recently. And then I'm going to pass you over to one of our retailers, Sid, who was one of the store owners with the project we ran, to talk you through the results. So soft drinks, as with lots of other categories, is facing into a lot of changes at the moment. I'd almost say it's probably facing into its biggest era of change that it's ever had. We've got three kind of key drivers which are impacting this. One's health, and we've talked quite a bit about health today. So there's lots of different impacts. You know, we've heard about the government talking about obesity, celebrities, and it's becoming much higher on the agenda. We also, the only marketing word I'll use today of millennials, but the way that their lifestyle's changing and their attitudes towards health and the way they go to the gym and live their life is very, very different perhaps than the way that consumers have lived their lives previously. But the one thing about soft drinks, and it is the one fundamental, is soft drinks is all about taste. People buy soft drinks because they taste good. And if they didn't, they'd probably just buy water. So how's that going to start to impact things as this kind of challenge around taste versus health starts to come in? But ultimately, there's a challenge there with value. So every time someone buys a bottle of water from one of your stores, they're probably only putting 50p through your till, whereas previously they might have been picking up a bottle of Coke or a bottle of 7-Up or Iron Brew, whatever it may be, and you're probably charging over £1. So that's driving devaluation within the overall soft drinks category. So that was some insight, that's some hunches that we had, but we went out and we talked to a huge group of consumers to understand a little bit more about their attitudes towards health in particular. So I'm not going to go through this in detail, but what we found was about 1 in 5 people that we spoke to were saying, I like sugary drinks, and I'm going to continue to purchase them in the long term. We had this big group of people in the middle with all slightly different need states and missions, but about 3 out of 5 people were saying, you know, we're adults, we want to make our own choices. We might reduce the amount of sugar that we're consuming or the amount of flavoured carbonates and mix in with some water or some sugar-free variants, but we're going to make some decisions ourselves. Then we had this other group at the end, and these are the people who they traditionally would just drink water, whether that's from a tap or out of a bottle, or the likes of coconut waters, aloe veras, but much more of the healthy end of the soft drinks range. So with all of that insight, coupled with lots of other things that we'd looked at, we came up with our category vision. Now, it's really simple. I mean, I've worked for a number of businesses. You can get some quite big, convoluted category visions as you work as a supplier. We've tried to keep ours quite simple. So we've mapped out the 3 areas that we think are going to drive growth in the category over the coming years of health, taste, and lifestyle. So we haven't got the time today to go through this in detail, but we will be launching a trade website next year, so all of this will be on there with much more detail to help you execute it in your stores. But the couple I will quickly touch on, tasty hydrations. Tasty hydrations at the top where we link together health and taste. And this is where we found this need state for people who want healthy drinks. So water's great. Perhaps it hasn't got the level of taste and it can be considered a bit boring sometimes, but people like the fact that it's low calorie and it's good for you. So how do you inject some taste into that? And you've probably all seen the reps coming around that a lot of the products and NPD people are launching now really drives into that. So low calories but high taste. And the other one to quickly pick out is just on connecting cultures. So this is looking at, we've said by 2020, 1 in 5 people in the UK will be non-white British. So how do you offer a range that caters for that level of diversity coming through into the stores? But not only that, people's social groups are changing. So you now find baby food with mango in. You know, who'd have thought we'd have seen that 10 years ago? So people have been brought up with different tastes, different flavours, very much influenced by social groups. So we took 3 stores, and I'd just like to say thank you to all the retailers for allowing us into the stores to do something a bit differently. And we had 3 goals. First of all was to get the right range. And I think as independent and symbol group retailers, you're in a great position to tailor a range to your local community. And actually that probably gives you a bit of an edge to be competitive against some of the other groups out there looking to steal the business. We then looked at ease of shop. So if you walk into a store, any category, you're faced with 100, 150 SKUs and a chiller on a shelf. And when you're walking in looking what to buy, actually sometimes it's quite difficult. So how do you make it easier for someone to shop that fixture based on the mission or the need state when they walk into your store? And ultimately, from those 2 things, the aim is to grow the category. So I'm just going to quickly talk you through the first 2. So for right range, so for Sid's store, who's going to talk to us in a moment, we took his EPOS data, we took local market data through IRI, and then we took a range of insights, whether that be from Kantar, from HIM, from a number of the companies that we work with, to look at what's the optimum range to put into the store, what's missing, what's there that needs more space, so on and so forth. And then we looked at ease of shop. So I hope everyone can see that all right. The principle here was people buy drinks for different reasons. So I've already touched on taste and we touched on water for kind of hydration. If we can make the fixture a little bit simpler for people, so over at one end, flavoured carbonates, high taste, enjoyment, all about refreshment, moving through to the more functional products, so the likes of water. And as you come through that, you've got functional drinks, but high in flavour, like energy. So it just maps it out, makes it simple. But even that on its own still doesn't make it easy for a shopper walking through the door because it's still just loads of products thrown into a fixture. So what we then did was overlay with shelf stripping to segment those areas. So if someone's coming in who's tired and wants an energy drink to pick me up, we've used shelf stripping to highlight that section so it's really clear for them to walk straight up to. So enough from me. I'd just like to say thank you for Sid for letting us use his store. If you could put your hands together for Sid, he'll come up and talk to you about the results.
I'm a retailer, been a retailer about 4 years. I had the opportunity with Nick, with AG Bar, to trial this drinks fixture and some of the kind of new philosophies that they've used. So the interesting thing about, we've probably got 15 linear meters of drinks. So a sizable range in store, and the range that we've always had as we've been quite dynamic and proactive over the years. So we've constantly looked at and made sure that our range was fit for purpose, and we're constantly bringing MPD in, and it's kind of evolving as trends and changes happen within the local area. Easy to shop. Now, Nick touched upon, the fact that they categorized some of the need states within soft drinks. I think it's very important because if you look at a shopper who comes into your fixture, any part of your fixture, you have a very small moment in time for them to make an informed decision. So depending on what they're coming for, what time of day they're actually visiting, they might be looking for something completely different. And I think it was fantastic that the signposting that Nick and his team used, and some of the need state ideas, as you can see, some of the colour coordination they've used, I think it really brought the fixture to life, made it easy for shopping. The customer was actually informed by some of the category titles we got, fruity hydration, indulge yourself. It actually kind of elevates that drink, and kind of makes the customer want to buy it. And I think that was very important, so, it's kind of, not only are you educating your consumer, it's kind of played a role within increasing the amount of soft drinks we're now selling. So looking at the, the higher value, more profit, and again, I think the signposting and the information that we have is bringing some of these fixtures to life, which Nick and his team has done, has been fantastic. Snapple, a product which, is something that I think we're retailing for $1.59 in our particular store. It's been fantastic, something that we probably might have not put in so many variants in the past. It's worked particularly well, and in fact, the whole category within that whole thing has done remarkably well. Looking at that again, Lipton Ice is something that we have stocked in the past, but we introduced 1 or 2 extra variants in. Again, big increase. It lends itself to people want to buy things which taste good and taste different. My particular area, again, just looking at the locality that we're in, and it's very important that you do actually look at that information and put products in which are going to be functional to the area that you live in. We're in a middle-class area. The healthcare, well-being is well indoctrined, into the area, and even their children. Parents want their children to eat, drink healthily. So that was fantastic. Kids, again, we have a primary school opposite, so we did have a range of soft drinks for the the children's market, and AG Bar have introduced a range in above and beyond the ones that we already had, and again, it's worked. So it just shows to you, even though you might proactively be looking at your particular category, that range, the stocks, the SKUs you have in that confined area. It means it's really good to revisit that, with every 3 to 6 months to make sure that you're stocking the right ranges and they're actually paying dividends in profit. Some of the areas that, the big brands we have out there, Coca-Cola, some of the other brands we have out there. So it's been interesting the fact that some of these carbonates, even though, the sugar levy has now come in, and I think we probably was one of the early adopters, to be fair, by bringing in either low or zero sugar products in, to see that we've had an increase, and the way it's been laid out, the way the layout has worked and the signposting has worked, and I think it's been a big plus again. Energy sales is huge, within most convenience stores, and making sure that your fixture is proportionately, faced off for the consumer to look at. And the way it's kind of signposted within there is important. So even though we felt that we were over-indexed within, the energy drink sector, by introducing a few lines, by actually just re-engaging the consumer with simple messaging, we've again nearly got a 30% increase in sales, which is fantastic. Again, looking at the figures below, energy, again, we look at Lucozade, and a lot of the consumers, this is about the re-education piece, isn't it? A lot of the consumers don't even realise that Lucozade is actually an energy drink. By just putting that little simple little message on there, just letting the consumers know that this is, energise yourself, it just lets them know, and if that's what they're looking to do, it kind of lends itself to making sure that, they're buying the right products for the right time of the day. Some of the new products we've introduced, some of the Rubicon sparkling range has been a fantastic performer. So, again, with the whole category of fruity hydration is I think what Nick and his team have kind of highlighted it as. It's very important, in our area, waters, fruity waters and fruity hydration as a whole is becoming to play a real significant role within the soft drinks. To making sure that you're constantly looking at bringing NPD in, making sure you've got a good variance, good variety for the consumers to choice, it's very, very important. The lower end of the market, either the juices or the carbonate side, we've had some products come in, great. We had a range there for children, we've expanded upon those, and obviously the local audience is buying into it. Rubicon. Again, I don't think this is a product that where we are, we're 99% Caucasian. The breadth and range of products we've now put in is something that I wouldn't automatically thought that was going to be working in our location, but the figures speak otherwise. So don't always believe or think on your consumer's behalf. Try something, and if it works, stick to it, expand upon it, and if it doesn't, then try something new. We've had, a net increase of 12% across my soft drink sales within the chiller, and I think that's fantastic, considering I feel that we actually proactively look at this category and other categories within the business to make sure that they are meeting the needs of my shoppers. Looking at some of these in a very local level and reacting upon some of what your customers are saying. And I go back to the fact that the sugar levy has only started to come in, but we've probably about a year ago took a decision to say we were going to start over-indexing in either low or zero sugar products, and it's paid dividends for me. And this exercise that AG Bar have done has only proved to me that we were doing the right thing, but just by now taking that fixture and actually using some of the data and the signage that we've now put in, and the way it's just been laid out, it's just taken that category and we've managed to squeeze extra sales out of there. So that's something that we can all be doing.
Hi, it's a question for Sid. It's Ian from Britvic Soft Drinks. What's your sense, based on your understanding of your shoppers, about how the soft drinks industry levy will impact? And are there any particular areas of your chiller that you're going to get the most of your focus?
I think if you look at that answer in a kind of holistic level, so if we look at all parts of, the soft drinks, is consumers and we, to be fair, and I think we've got a role within the industry as convenience store operators, because we're actually the kind of face, the pick face of what you guys are actually producing and trying to get out and trying to market into, into kind of public psyche. I think we need to, within all categories actually, to make sure that we're fit for purpose and we're reacting upon local and national. Sugar levy is here, and there's a price element in there. There's also a real connotation towards well-being and health. And people, not only as adults, but they're very conscious that they're children. And these are future customers, actually. So these customers will future be making those decisions and buying some of these products. So making sure that we actually make the right choices. We morally do the right thing. Whether it be carbonates, fruity hydration or beyond, is we have variants to make sure that they're either low or zero sugar, so we don't miss out on some of these opportunities. And we actually drive this culture. And I think Nick hit upon we're in an ideal situation where we can actually react very quickly to local trends and driven by our consumers where some of the malts can't.
Gentlemen, thanks very much indeed. Thank you.